This is Intuitive Astrologer Michael Vanderpool over in the country of Georgia at the moment in the international capital city here, Tbilisi. And just taking a quick look at the chart of an amazing astrologer himself and psychic, rock and roll psychic Andrew Brewer, as I just requested his birth data. Seen some interesting posts from him today. And today, when I say today, is July 19, 2016. And on Tbilisi time, it's about 20 minutes till noon. Back in Central Standard Time, and that would be Missouri specifically, my laptop clock time is showing 2:41 a.m. in the morning. So what's funny is knowing a little bit about Andrew Brewer as far as my impression from his posts over the years, and I've got some outstanding readings from him in the past, two to be exact, that are so valuable in their insight, their predictive value, as well as just practical insights that I have just a few of those kinds of things, MP3 audios on my iPod Shuffle or on my playlist for when I take a daily brisk walk, or when I'm flying somewhere, or when I'm wanting to learn something or listen to something. His readings are among those that I listen to that are absolutely invaluable with advice, especially not just personal advice and psychic insight, but in terms of this part of the world, this region of the world that I'm in. In fact, I can say that, my God, just in the last 3 days, his predictions about this part of the world have unfortunately overwhelmingly once again proven absolutely spot on accurate, and for better or for worse, in this case we can't say that it's anything good actually, but for better or for worse, it's true. I mean, his predictions have been absolutely accurate. So with that said, I'm going to look a little bit into the Magi astrology chart just very quickly and just give some kind of fun insights. This is for information and entertainment purposes only. No astrologer or psychic astrologer can be 100% accurate all the time, certainly. And I can't guarantee results, although I have had quite an amazing high rate of accuracy. I do make mistakes, and of course this is not a perfect science, and it is largely also an art. That said, looking at Andrew Brewer's Magi astrology chart, one of the first things I laughed at is that he's got a Mars quincunx Juno, and that is a super sexual aspect. It's also somebody that boldly, aggressively goes after their dreams and wishes, but that is that's almost an aggressive super sexual aspect, and I find him fascinating because also not only is he into the metaphysics and a psychic, rock and roll psychic, but he's got an amazing amount of women that adore him and that are a part of his life, or that appear to be a part of his life, as far as what I can tell in his stories on Facebook. And that's of course, abundantly clear in the chart here. In fact, I've got a friend that's got this aspect, and that's why I don't just know this by the book. This particular aspect, I know, I know what that aspect means in real life. So but the non-sexual side, because Magi astrology does specialize in sexual astrology, also, in a quite very scientific way. That the studies that they've shown, and the astrology of Juno itself is just an amazing extra tool of insight for those that are using or studying or applying Magi astrology principles to their lives. It's been, in fact, I can say that here, just a side note real quick, not to be off topic, but there's been some girls that have actually seen in tears over the understanding that, even though one in particular, for example, had a degree in psychology here in Georgia, and she really thought she'd understood herself as much as she could from the traditional social sciences, such as psychology. But when I was able to explain to her the meaning of Juno, the astrology of Juno from the Magi Society, from Magi Astrology, and what that meant in her life, she was crying. Because for the first time in years, she really began to understand why she was the way that she was, and what those possibilities were, and what that meant for her life. And that's what brought her to tears, because she had been so frustrated before that. And I've had that conversation similar with several women here in this part of the world, actually. And it's really helped them to understand the changeable nature that they have. It can be that Mars to Juno can also mean a very aggressively, sometimes changeable nature, in that the change, to want to change things, to be too changeable, or to be rather very energetic and bold about changes, can be the warrior of change and the warrior of changes. Also, illusions, deceptions, and short-term commitments versus long-term commitments. Those can be things that Mars-Juno people can wrestle with. And as far as whether that's true of Andrew or not, I don't know. I'll leave that up to him and whoever wants to have an opinion about that. I myself am just explaining some possibilities from the chart. The other thing that really sticks out to me very boldly is and it's strong, is the Saturn trine Jupiter conjunct Uranus in the geocentric chart that I'm seeing. And the immediate sense and interpretation that came to my mind for that is that structured fame and popularity, celebrity. And of course, he's done a lot of acting work and been known for that, and also as one of America's top listed psychics. This is, with Saturn, is somebody that can have an element of power, and even the research aspect of that, someone that is, in Andrew's case, I know from some of his writings, very intensely, just deeply researching and comparing and kind of like a Rubik's Cube of metaphysical thought, philosophical thought, scientific analysis of reincarnation, of past lives, of how that fits into modern psychology, into what drives us as human beings, what connections from multiple past lives. And I've even seen the familiar faces from certain historical figures in past lives that match and resemble very closely to those faces or our face in this life, and how that is actually a possible significant indicator of who we might indeed have been in a past life. And that actually is echoed in the Billy Edward Albert Meyer case in the contact notes, that's actually a factual point, that often it is the case that in past lives we will resemble in a facial feature that person in this life. We were resembling them in that previous life, in facial structure and facial features. So there have been some interesting case studies on that. You can look that up on the internet. But anyway, back to the Saturn trine Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Andrew Brewer's geocentric chart. That's a very structured kind of fame, so it's almost like when he's on, and when he's off, because that's a kind of nature with Saturn. Sometimes it's kind of structured, but I say that because there's actually another indicator here, and a reason why I say that is because he's a bi-level aspect Saturn-Sun person. I'm sorry, just another level, not bi-level. And that is that Sun is parallel Saturn in the geocentric declination chart here, applying at 0.13 degrees. So it's not bi-level. But what it does mean is that actually Saturn trining Jupiter conjunct Uranus like that's a lot of Saturn, though, and it's a very powerful element of Saturn, because the first thing we look at in Magi astrology is what's aspecting the Sun or the Moon or the Earth, if it's heliocentric sky, the Earth, Moon complex. And the second thing we're looking at is what's happening with Saturn and Jupiter, as being the traditional, and also in Magi astrology's modern research, the most significant impacting planets in the chart. In one sense, this is one way to weight it. It's not the only way, and I'm not an expert certified Magi astrologer, okay? So, but as I understand it, and as I apply and use it at this particular moment, at this particular time, this is a heavy weight. And the next thing we look at in reading the chart, one of the next things is the Saturn and Jupiter aspects in the chart. So when we see Sun-Saturn in Andrew's chart, and then we see that Saturn is trine Jupiter, conjunct Uranus. What we see is that there's a lot of Saturn there that's very impactful and powerful in the energy that he was born into. And so what that means to me is that, in this case, Jupiter was applying to Saturn. Thank the gods and the devil too, if you want to look at it that way. I jest a bit, but no, it's a thing to be thankful for that it's that way and not the reverse, because Jupiter applying to Saturn means that Jupiter has helped to negate that Saturn influence in his life rather than the other way around. Had it been the other way around, we would have expected his life to be less than lucky. However, in that Saturn, Jupiter was actually applying trine to Saturn, and that Jupiter trine Uranus, this gives the effect of it being negated. Now, the same is this in that it was the Sun that was applying parallel to his Saturn. So that means that, again, lucky for Andrew that it wasn't Saturn applying to the Sun, or we would say that in fact we'd be looking for how that progression and when that progression would have played out in his life, because that would be very restrictive, depressing, controlling, being controlled type of energy, and so on. But because it was the Sun applying to Saturn, my experience has been that that's simply times of some element of depression, battles with depression. And so the necessity I of course would hope, natural means and consciousness means to offset those periods or those bouts of depression. And at first glance, one might think that this is a controlling individual. However, because it is the Sun that has applied to Saturn parallel and geocentric declinations, and because it is Jupiter that has applied trine to Saturn, this actually gives somebody who's very much not only had bad luck negated in his life from at least these two aspects, at least the Jupiter applying trine to Saturn aspect, but also it's that the bouts of depression can be less and can be better managed. It's just sometimes a more lighter feeling. It's not the kind of depression that's going to take you out, so to speak, or keep you down for long at all. But it is those kind of frustrated, darker, heavier moments that kind of like dark clouds coming over, and they're there, and you wonder, damn, is it going to storm? Is this going to be something that's going to blow me off the table here, or am I going to need to take shelter or what? But it's a temporary thing. It's like a huge cloud or set of clouds that come, and then they just keep going. And probably a lot of that can be said for the life of a lot of people that have chosen the metaphysical path, or the path of being a public, known, in fact, documented psychic, such as Andrew Brewer. But the impression here is, though, that it's the same, and if we consider that the birth time that I'm using here is exact and accurate, that Moon is applying contraparallel to Saturn in the same geodeclinations chart, that there are those times, and it's just very cyclic, it's very temporary. But one thing that can be helpful is to, even at this level and at this stage of experience and knowledge and wisdom and practice of metaphysics and astrology and dealing with countless people, to still take methods and measures to overcome those temporary times of depression or depressive kind of speed bumps or bumps in the road, those temporary dark clouds that pass over, that cast its shadow. And so in a chart like this, for someone that holds this kind of stars, and because it's so primary energy in the chart, because again, the first thing we look at is what's happening with the Sun, but in Magi astrology, the Sun is also interchangeable with the Moon. It's just the Moon is more cyclic, more emotional. And it's also in the heliocentric chart, which I'll look at here momentarily, interchangeable with the Earth-Moon complex and the heliocentric chart. So that's a very good piece of advice, is to learn to roll with the storm clouds on the bright sunny day that are come over looking pretty menacing, maybe even have some thunder and lightning in there, maybe even some hailstones, but it's just very temporary, and then you're moving forward. But Uranus, the Jupiter is conjunct Uranus, and that was separating at 2.6 degrees. So that trying to Saturn. So that's a kind of, in a sense, a very research-oriented type of fame and celebrity, and in terms of analytical kind of analysis kind of way, but also structured sometimes, but not as much if it was as if though it was in reverse. So he's not at all restricted by that, and it's not at all too confined or controlled. In fact, it suggests to me that there is some sort of fame or celebrity related to his research in the metaphysics, and all things to do with research-based things, regardless of what the research is about, actually, and fame and celebrity through that. So that's one thing that, and I can say that because I'm familiar a little bit with his writings and what he's been proposing and the ideas that he comes. He's got a very analytical mind, and so that helps because it's expansive, and he's fortunate in that, and very liberating, and you could say rebel in that, because hey, Uranus is in the mix here, but it's also in a very fame-oriented, very expansive, very liberating, very independent, oh my God, ultimately independent way. And those of us that are familiar with Andrew's work can certainly, I think, agree with that. So the other thing is this is a guy with a beautiful voice. This is a man with enduring teaching, writing, speaking, travel-oriented nature. Mercury is trine Neptune, and at the time of his birth, applying at 0.90 degrees. And so this is somebody that's like a, very creative, very inspired, and intertwined with the artistic, the creative, but also even teaching, studying, writing, communicating over the long term in ways that are artistic and creative. And all those things are intertwined with the Mercury-Neptune connection, but also music is very much a part of that. It makes sense for him to have the term rock and roll psychic. I don't know if he meant that in a literal way with music or not, but it would certainly fit in with that Mercury trine Neptune. And this is just a quick look at the chart. He's got a lot of genuine friendships and the qualities of somebody that is a genuine friend to a lot of people, because he's got a pretty tight aspect at 0.35 degrees, although separating Sun trine Vesta at birth, and that's just a lot of true, genuine friendship and deep spirituality, because Vesta is representing either churches or spiritual groups or non-profits or foundations and things like that. So very charitable, friendly, kind, giving individual that is networked with a lot of genuine friendships. This is also that same Vesta quincunx that Juno being the focal point of that, also the quincunx Mars, which is part of the yod that it based out of. And so he probably enjoys the kind of people that are more active friends, people that are active in more Mars types of energies or personalities in terms of that. But people that also are ambitious, boldly ambitious, and that like to dream and to pursue their dreams. Because Juno being at the focal point of this finger of God or yod, and Vesta and Mars being at the base of that, would suggest that both friends and friendships and spiritual interests that are actively pursuing dreams of bold change and almost the rebel yell. I think of Billy Idol when I say that. But actively pursuing changes for a better world that we all dream about. That's one way to interpret that yod, the finger of God, which Juno is the focal point of, being the base of the Mars and Vesta there, and a very, very spiritual base to that as well. And again, that Vesta is trine the Sun. So and business is any kind of business related to Venus, is suggested here because Venus is conjunct Ceres in that geodeclinations chart. On the heliocentric side, he's got a Ceres trine Earth. And that's somebody that can be very successful and be involved in a very powerful way with business. That Earth was trine the Ceres. So either bringing business to him or others, or he coming to business is a possible theme, or being very nurturing and more amplified, kind of amped up kind of individual, but definitely a nurturer and a provider for others, many things. And so he's a very Ceres individual outwardly. That Ceres is quincunx Mercury. So again, the writer, the speaker, the teacher, the communicator, the artist, the actor, of course, we already know that's true about him. And that same Mercury is trine Saturn. And fortunately, again, Mercury was applying trine to that Saturn. So it's kind of a genius aspect in that sense. I mean, the crystallization of thought, just some ingenious ideas regarding the fields of anything mercurial. And research based again on that, ideas about actors, acting, schools, teaching, communication, writing of books, and even travel-related topics. And travel itself is very much within his realm of skills and abilities. This is kind of a quick overview. Also, there is a Pluto square Pallas, and in Magi astrology we consider that, even though it's a square, we consider that a beneficial aspect. And this is someone that can be in a very kind of not abrasive, but it can be, but challenging, but yet strong, cutting way, profoundly, deeply impactful thoughts, thinking, and change and power in thoughts and thinking and planning and research and strategy, even applied to software or anything the mind can do best, structures, plans. That's his gift as well. And a lot of people are not going to understand him at all, because this is the kind of depth of insight and, let's say, genius that it would be even hard for him to crystallize into thought sometimes and get it out there on paper. But he's gifted with Mercury to such an extent that he's able to do that, whereas many will only be able to think and never get such profoundness onto the canvas, so to speak, into the text, into the paper, so to speak. So this is also the same Pallas that is opposition Mars. So it's a kind of strategist, planner, researcher, fast thinker, fast communicator. He's a boxer, and that makes sense because these people, I have the same aspect myself, except it's in a trine. These people can be lightning fast. And when it comes to sport, that is not someone that you would want to have to be in a combat sport against. That's for sure. The Mars is quincunx Ceres, so also that means that businesses that have to do with more action-oriented, more activity would be suitable and of interest or within Anders' skill set. This is also interesting to see that Saturn we talked about earlier in the heliocentric sky is square Earth. So sometimes the need to throw off constriction of self, or being constricted by others, that feeling is there, and probably one that, as I understood his life story a little bit here and there from what I've read, is something that he's had to battle, is either the feelings of constriction or being constricted, or that whole theme, and control and controlling. The Saturn square Earth aspect there, even though it was separating at the time of Anders' birth, is the energy that he carried into his life's journey. That is something that he's... It's also an element of power, because he can walk into a room or walk into a situation and have that control. And it's because it's in the heliocentric sky, it's a very outward energy. So this is someone that can walk in and be like, hey, look, and have that presence that I'm here and I'm in control. That's the positive side of that. So that's a gift that Magi astrology shows that is with and in his birth chart. And again, there's a Neptune opposition that Jupiter conjunct Uranus. and that Neptune happens to be conjunct Juno. So this is a kind of expansiveness and long-term, like inspiring the dream. And in the world of acting, the illusion, the filmmaking, the scripts, the stories, the bigger picture and manifesting of that, but the expansiveness and a fame element to actually be able to help other people reach a higher level of fame or celebrity, and also expansiveness in being more independent. And again, the kind of the rebel aspect keeps coming to mind when I look at that Jupiter conjunct Uranus in this particular sense, in this particular interpretation. But that's kind of the short term. Now I'll look at, just very quickly, going to look at a couple other predictive aspects now in the chart of Andrew Brewer and using Magi Astrology. So now I put the transits into the geocentric chart and kind of get a quick snapshot of what's happening now in terms of how I can interpret the Magi Astrology, or how I use it in interpreting that. And the first good news is that the fantastic astro body of Chiron is applying trine to Andrew's natal Jupiter. That is an absolutely rare but fantastic Cinderella transit that for him goes on till at least October 1st, 2016. And I haven't checked to see if that's a loop transit or not, but joining in with that is Chiron, that same Chiron, by the way, which makes it a powerful 3-planet synchronization at least. There is a Chiron trine Uranus as well. So that's very helpful for fame, innovation, and creativity through independent entertainment, connected things, people, topics, and places. That is very strong until the end of July, so for another 11 days. But that Chiron applying to Jupiter is a Cinderella transit that goes on until October 1st, 2016. Now that's in geocentric sky. But we also see that, interestingly enough, this is very interesting, transiting Jupiter is applying trine to natal Chiron in heliocentric sky longitudes. That Jupiter trine Chiron in heliocentric sky longitudes lasts until August 4, 2016. So here we have a second kind of almost reverse of the same, but reverse only in the sense that it's Jupiter applying trine to Chiron, in addition to the other geocentric charts, Chiron applying to a trine to natal Jupiter. So we see yet a second Cinderella transit of Jupiter applying to natal Chiron. And being that this particular transit of Jupiter, transiting Jupiter applying trine to natal Chiron until August 4, 2016, I'm not exactly sure, but we would probably weigh that in as almost a 5 to 6 times stronger aspect of Cinderella in a Jupiter-Chiron way until at least October 7th. But it's going to depend on the technical aspect of whether we would weigh that in being that way, because it is a Chiron applying to Jupiter in geocentric, and here it's a Jupiter applying to Chiron in heliocentric. So either way, and also because it would almost be a trans-dimensional aspect, but it's not clear to me whether the rule would apply, because technically it's not the exact same transit. But it's very interesting nonetheless. So even if we don't throw in that trans-dimensional and bi-level aspect to that, or I'm sorry, not bi-level aspect, but the trans-dimensional aspect to that, we would that's how we would weigh it. But let's just take that out and say that that's still at least a double whammy. We'll leave out the 5 to 6 times strength and say that it's at least a double whammy of Jupiter-Chiron energy. And at least 2 of those types of transits, Cinderella transits to be exact, in Magi Astrology until August 7th, 2016. And that's just magical. That's purely wonderful, wonderful energy to have it's a rare time in life to make the magic happen and for something special. And it can be in the area of romance, it can be the area of family, it can be in the area of some elements of a little popularity or fame. But something really nice and magical in even career or business projects or any of those kinds of things. It's truly a Cinderella time, and it's very, very strong until at least August 7th. But it continues until, at least in one transit, will continue beyond that, as I mentioned earlier, until October 1st, 2016. So this is a time that's a very magical, special time. And, it's not without, this time is not without a little bit of, challenges. There is a Saturn Chiron clash Venus in here. This is a kind of another kind of heartbreak, a clash. It's going to go on for some time. I can't quickly track that out without taking a lot more time here in this to do that. But so it's not without its challenge. But the Cinderella energy here is amazing. And there's also Uranus trine Pluto. It's applying at 1.32 degrees in the geocentric sky, and that's just it's a powerful time of change. Very, very powerful time of deep and more positive than negative changes in this time ahead. So that's really quite incredibly strong and powerful. That's a rare kind of transit. Sometimes you want to change to two extremes, or to see things too much in black and white and not look for a middle ground or more solution-based, creative kind of approaches or answers to problems or challenges in life. This is the kind of energy that kind of can make one want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but not even so much that. It's just to be more. It's important to remember to be in the rush of the river of life that is flowing through, not to be too forgetful of the truly creative solutions and workarounds and kind of halfway meetings in life's typical traditional approaches to problems that will come up in this time. Because the force of change and the massive amounts of positive flow of, let's say, Cinderella energies flowing through can cause you to overlook some of those details that can be worked out with some compromises in mentalities and working with others that may be more or less rigid in their approaches and ways of thinking to things. I hope that makes sense. That's more from my intuitive kind of touching in on that right now. And that's amazing that I just picked that up, because also there's a Chiron trine Pallas that I just saw that's transiting Chiron trine Pallas in the heliocentric sky. And that's a transit that lasts till almost the end of October 2016. And so this is very big emphasis on innovation and freedom-oriented strategy or strategies, planning, research, and your super communications. You got one hell of a network. So that's in fact, even applying some technologies to some problems that you may be dealing with. Some technologies of whether it's home security or surveillance or applications that are coming out or that you may not have ever thought of to help you solve some practical daily issues in life. But that's a very big help with freedom-oriented flexibility toward life and living in terms of applying technological services or services that offer various technologies and applications to that end. There is now Saturn is applying trine to Earth, and so that's a very sober kind of approach, structuring life. September, and that goes on to September 29, 2016. So Pluto is coming into the Earth too, and this is again in heliocentric sky at quincunx until April 7th. This is very impactful, powerful. almost obsessive, very, very incredibly strong. It's power with authority. I want to, and yeah, that's the, I just saw that Cinderella transit again, and I know what that's all about. It's just, these next couple of weeks can be the most wonderful, wonderful time. I'd seen, in fact, the post I posted in here, contemplation to travel, and I just have to say that I would just, the urge, if I were with this chart right now, I'd have to go. I mean, that would just be a precious, precious, precious time that you never, quite frankly, may never see again in this life. It's a time. If it's anything Cinderella is in this next. It's happening now, and that the strength of that ends after August 7th. So if there's a green light from the universe and from creation's workshop here, the metaphysical workshop, this is a huge, huge, huge mega sign of go, 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 go for the Cinderella time. You have to work the challenges out the best way that you can, but this is certainly the biggest green light that I've seen in a chart for some time for this kind of indicator on whether to stay or go. It's a big green light to go. Absolutely. This is any Magi astrologer will confirm that. I just have to say that that's not just Michael speaking here. And I'm just would find it almost absolutely improbable that any Magi astrologer would disagree with that in this case. So what I'll do is wrap up with a quick overview of the progressions, just to see what's happening. Of course, I could go in and do some searches and this and that and do some things that I do for different types of readings, for different types of situations, people or problems or situations or positive things. But what I'll do is go in and take a quick look at the progressions, and I think I'll wrap this up for now. I'm setting the progress charts up now, the astrological progressions, to see if there's anything else in there. It's not the easiest time. There is the Saturn quincunx, the Sun quincunx Saturn that comes until May 17, 2018. So there is, again, the need to watch out for misjudgment, anything to do with the depression scenario, the kind of analogy I use of the heavy, dark clouds in the white puffy ones passing over, that kind of analogy that you just have to get through that. But also it's certainly a good time to stay away from anything that can be addictive, anything that can be toxic, anything that can lead you into further misjudgment or danger of misjudgment. Double, triple check all outside advices and stuff, and watch out for misjudgment and unnecessary risk in that time. That said, there's a very wonderful Jupiter conjunct Uranus for the rest of your life. So you probably already knew that, I'm going to guess. This is in Geocentric Sky, Astrological Progressions. That's quite simply the fame aspect and celebrity that grows and grows and grows until September 9, 2048. No worries, no problems there. Fame and celebrity are assured to grow for the rest of the years that you're walking this planet, or at least until the date that I just gave for the length of that progression. These now looking into heliocentric progressions, this is wonderful to see that there's a Jupiter quincunx series until February 5th, 2030, so that's luck and expansion and good fortune through business. If you're not already experiencing that is something that you can ride the wave out on if you just get the right surfboard and hit the wave and start surfing, because that's one that will be coming in and that you can ride out until at least 2030, and that's luck and expansion through business or through businesses. There is Uranus quincunx Mercury. Mercury quincunx Uranus until January 17, 2017. So that's kind of more writing, thinking, speaking on in an independent, very kind of counterculture way, if you will, on anything you're teaching, writing, and speaking, and even in some of your travels that may be more independent and more eccentric, so to speak. There's some eccentric topics that you probably wrap up and finish up in this way in that time before the end of the year. There's wonderful to see that Mercury is to parallel Chiron, and that's coming in very strong until December 4. So this the ability to read other people's minds, pick up other people's thoughts. You're going to have the temptation to just skip ahead in conversation or in life, especially those close to you, around you, or that you're connecting with in the real world, in face-to-face meetings, and completely skip over the fact that while you're able to read their mind and pick up their thoughts, you're still going to need to use words and nonverbal communication more than usual, because it's so easy for people with this particular progression, or even who are born with that aspect too, by the way, as you may already know, to just assume that everybody's like you, and that even though you're reading and picking up other people's thoughts. There's a girl here in Georgia like that I've dated for like 6 years. She was born with the same aspect, and I told her about it, and I think since then she's actually developed it and ran with it, but the problem is that even though she'll know exactly when to call or to contact me, for example, or anybody else, she'll forget to communicate and speak and be more clear and more vocal, because she forgets that everyone else around her is not acknowledging or tuned into this ability that we all have, actually. But you've got it enhanced in this progression, as it shows, until at least December 4th, especially this year. Not that you don't always have that, but it's going to be enhanced and even greater until then. So I think, being that we're at 41 minutes into this reading, because it'll take me a little time to put this into audio file format, get it uploaded, and get it over or published in a way that's presentable. I think I'll stop with that, and I hope that helps. The most important thing I take away from the reading, given the thread and the topic of conversation there on Facebook, which prompted me to take a look at this, is that the most beautiful gift that we can take away from Magi astrology is what's happening with Chiron, and that's based on research on the MAX study that the Magi Society did over 20 years on over 100,000 people, and the amazing discovery of the astrology of Chiron in terms of issues of love or money. And so this whole Cinderella period is especially heavy the next couple of weeks. And I know, based on the topic of the thread that we had talked about, you're very challenged with the decision right now, but it's from the best of my heart and from the best of my understanding of Magi astrology, and certainly I'm not all-knowing, I'm not an expert, and I'm not certified in that, but I'm quite adept at it, and I've been working with it for many years now, and working with a lot of government people in having them ask me my opinion about future things. But anyway, let's say that this is a big, huge green light from the Magi astrology. When you've got kind of double Cinderella transits, and that's what you've got going on right here, right now, Jupiter, Chiron, Chiron to Jupiter, and the strength of those, both of those running together, and the energy of that being strong at least until August 7th, one peaking August 4th, the other one extending until October 1st. It is a big, huge green light to go from the universe and enjoy the Cinderella time and manifest what's before you, because this is one of those rare times in life. And when I see that, I'm just amazed, because you can really reach out and take the hand of manifestation and create what you wish, because the universe is going to extend and is extending its hand too, in a firm and creative, artful way to create what it is you want to create in this time. So there's something magical and wonderful about ready to come in, and I encourage you to go for it. That's it. That's the best I can humbly offer. Thank you for that opportunity in sharing your birth data with me. It'll be interesting. I'll take a look at your fixed stars chart too. It's not my forte, so to speak, but I think it's always important and interesting to see what the fixed stars have to offer and show us, based on largely the work of Bernadette Brady and other fixed stars astrologers out there that have a lot of information has been published on the internet about as well. So anyway, thanks much. This is Michael R. Vanderpool, intuitive astrologer, a psychic astrologer. And for anybody else who wants to look up Andrew Brewer, rock and roll psychic, check out his website. I think it's www.andrew-brewer.com, or look up Andrew Brewer Psychic or Rock and Roll Psychic on the Facebook, for example, or on in the search engine. Also, you can check out my site at www.universalstars.com.